Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Sarah Sessions and conversations that soothe the heart, feed the soul, and help us find a little more light in our daily lives through the heroes that we meet that are unspoken of. And I am so glad to be here with Ariane Kamba, which is a superstar. She just got her Heels and Wheels and Bad Deals book published, and it is fantastic. So if you haven't read it, get on it. You could find it on Amazon and your favorite places to buy it. You could also go in stores maybe. So let's start with this. Ariane is a woman that I met through a kind of a complicated situation. We were at the hospital. My mom just had an aneurysm. I tried to keep my life and my loved ones' life private, but this is an important part because even in situations of difficulty, you can find beauty in it. And my beauty in that was meeting Ariane. Unfortunately, circumstances that I would have not, that I would have liked to not meet you in, but she was having health issues, and that's how we met. And somehow she reminded me of somebody that I knew or that I know through friends. And so we connected. And she is a fantastic woman that has studied law, that has worked as a finance manager in a car industry. She's a wellness therapist. She's toured with dancers, and she is an all-around fantastic human with so much kindness and grace. Hi, Ariane. How are you?
Hi,
I'm so
I'm
excited
good.
to
I'm
do
like, are we
this.
talking about me right now?
Yeah, of course.
Very multifaceted, I can tell that.
Yeah, you are. And that's what's so inspiring about you, right? You have this way of bringing beauty and grace in everything you do, and you look like you have such a wonderful, easy life. Who would have known that you would have been in the hospital?
It's 7 times in the last 7 years. Quite easy. Transformational years. They say it's a 7 years transformation period, which has been, and we're in the last year, so only gold from here. Gold nuggets. And your question was?
So, can you describe me what these past 7 years have been about? This transition, this change? Because I know right now we're in a time of change as well, like energetically in the world. And I think that's really,
I mean, we're in a number 9 cycle, which is a lot of endings. And I think that's now I look back and everything is making a lot more sense. And 7 years, I guess everything started around 2018. I was at the height of my career, I would say. I was on tour. I was with Post Malone and 21 Savage that year. And I had 3 other tours that I was supposed to get on. I was absolutely exhausted though, but I was at the height of everything that I worked so hard to get into. And coming home, waiting for the next tour, things started canceling. I remember I had moved to Toronto, but I hadn't really been there from Montreal to Toronto because I had a lot of people that I worked from, a TV show that I work with out there. And I came home super alone and I just fell into a weird depression, but I think it was more exhaustion. I had been on the go 5 years all over the place. And in that exhaustion period, it's like all the things that I have never worked on started surfacing. Like I thought I did the work, but no. Like I went into things that were being suppressed deep down. I always see issues in our tissues when you're exhausted and you can't control anything. We're just like coming to life and having its own party on out of my body.
mm,
And like you're facing with all of these, I wouldn't say demons, but just your shadows, basically. Yeah, your shadows come out and play. What is that saying? When the cat is sleeping, the mouse is
say,
dancing. It's kind of like that. Basically, I was wiped, exhausted, and the shadows were, let's go. Let's have a party. Party they had. And I would say it's about a 7 year awakening where every year there was something. So it was like the depression, and then we also had COVID. Then I lost a sense of my career because there was no more touring. So everything you work for just gone like that. Then it was like a huge car accident, a freak show too, like a freak accident where I won't get too much into it, but yeah, so car accident another year. Like there's literally something that happened that any like physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, all the IEs that you can think of, I had to deal with. My nervous system was off the rocks, as you can tell. And just, I think learning to become a better therapist and less into my ego and more into, if that makes sense.
As a massage therapist and a somatic coach, I totally get that. Can you explain a little on what you mean by that? What does that mean?
Well, I think I was always my own, not an overachiever, but I would set a goal and I would just like go for it. And I didn't really think about anything, or things would come to me, things would happen. I would magnetize these great opportunities, but they're empty. Where now I love that I've been able to do every single thing that I have done. But when I was at the highest, I was also, not the loneliest, but empty. Yeah, I was very empty. So 7 years taught me that I had been surrounded by not the right people. And when I started changing, the environments around me started changing. People were telling me I'm changing. And I was changing. And it's a great thing. Some people embrace the new way of being. Other people are like, she's gone crazy. Because it's like I flip mode. I wasn't the same person that I came in or was. I was, after all of that, if you are the same person, you're not evolving, you're not growing. And I was no longer thriving for external validation. Where now, I'm like, people are so boring. I can't stand, I love people. My next work that I'm working on is mission driven. And it is to help. Now I'm like, I want to help vibrate higher, like society. I want to bring higher vibes, vibrate higher. I can't be bothered being out all night. People to me are a lot of sad creatures when you go out and you see like they're dressed to the nines, but like you talk to them, they're soulless. But those are the kind of people that I used to be with or attracted. And now everybody's a mirror as well. So I'm always like, where was I that if I think of them as is exhausting, I'm like, where I was exhausting, right? So I start returning to self and being like, how can I become better? So I don't regret anything. Looking back, I think it is those treasures. They are treasures in a way that I never need to be going through again. But I have to say thank you to those shadows dancing on my tired corpse, I felt like. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So there's a lot there. There's about the moving and how you make all these decisions of going from one thing to another and how that builds our resilience and our character and how that guides our next steps in our environment and in our relationships, the dynamics. Also, you talked about exhaustion and depression, which is something that a lot of people are managing and dealing with, or not dealing at all because they're in complete avoidance and denial. And then there's the beauty of coming out of that with so much wisdom that, despite the loss and the grief and the pain and the suffering, or, these car accidents and the hospitals and the challenges that come and build us. Despite all that, you've found yourself and you've always come back to yourself. And now you're leading with purpose. And there's so much I want to open on. Which one of those would you feel like delving into? Because I know that we're in a time of transition. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are looking for answers and that are looking for glimmers of hope to give them that understanding to come back to yourself and to maybe go forward with something that they've been scared of doing.
That's like 15 million things we can tap on, but I want to say a lot of me moving around so much, I think it dealt from my childhood. First of all, being an immigrant here, I probably had 4, 5 different homes before I even came to Canada. I was born in Burundi. I know we went back to Congo and then we were in Egypt and I was in Quebec. Then my parents kind of went their separate ways and I went with my dad in Alberta. So there's a lot. I've always been on the move and I'm okay with that. But I've always had a strong self as well. I don't know where that came from because I have had my moments of insecurities. Like all my moves, I never fit in. I was like the ugly duckling. I never fit in. I didn't speak the language, didn't look like everybody else, even within my own family. Like half my family's, my mom's side is Pakistani descent, and I didn't speak the language, and they look a certain way. And my dad's Congolese, and I didn't really fit in with that Congolese, and I don't speak the language either. I was always in between. And then my stepmom's blonde-eyed American. And I moved into this like hick town, Fort Saskatchewan, like 17,000 people at that time in Alberta. And I got picked on all the time. So I really got to learning the language. I got into reading, that's for sure. So from a young age, I've gone through so much and I've never been really mothered, if that makes sense. So there are so many layers to different things where I've kind of went my own way to look where I belong. And I kind of always belong with the misfits. I don't look like a misfit. A lot of people are like, oh, you like this little bougie or whatever. I would get snobby or something. And I'm like, no, I really got along with the misfits just because we're all different in our own ways and we didn't fit in society. And I tried different things because I didn't believe in the religion that we were raised in, which was Mormon. So that's a whole different ballgame on its own. Yeah, there's a lot of layers.
So it's really fascinating that we're children and we move 5 times as we grow older in our adolescence and in our younger adult life, and we adapt. Right? We adapt without even realizing. And that reading and that curiosity for the books and wanting to belong in a place where they don't know anything else other than somebody that looks like them. You know, their intelligence is all the way straight from their eyes to their brain, unfortunately. And so when they don't know something, they don't understand it. They don't know how to respond to it. Like if it was something different from them, but yet we're all so similar. So that dynamic of trying to belong by reading, by increasing your communication, by building on your skills, to read people, to understand people, has really helped shape you through all those.
I think I always think my spirit animal is like an iguana, right? Or a chameleon. I can basically blend everywhere because I feel like I've always been around so many different cultures. And at a young age, although I was surrounded by a big family, I didn't have a family. I have 2 mothers, but I wasn't mothered. Like my stepmom was very like strict and it's Mormon way. My mom lived in Quebec while we were there, right? So back in the day, you have your 1 call a week. We didn't have cell phones and we didn't have texting, and it's long distance was expensive. So once a week was a luxury to be able to dial long distance. And we would see each other in the summers or every other summers or every other Christmas. It wasn't this 1 week here, 1 week there that you see now and where we're always in communication at all. I didn't feel like I had a mother, so I looked into books, I learned people, I saw examples from neighbors or church people. Even though I didn't believe in the system, I still enjoyed meeting or being, well, some of them would say I enjoyed terrorizing the teachers too. Not terrorizing, but I was curious. I was like, well, if this is it, why is this it? And they didn't like having me in their class because I just really challenged a lot of the thinking. And we didn't have these social medias or these tools that we have, or they couldn't just ask ChatGPT. They're just like, this is what we've been told and this is what we read and that's what it's about. And me, I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right. So I've always been that person for teachers. And if I loved you, I loved you. If I didn't, I just couldn't be bothered. I've always been a bit black and gray. It's like either I see you or I don't see you. I feel your energy or you're off. And I could never really pretend. I was polite, but I wasn't fake.
Is that part of what you learned through mothering yourself? Because I find that really wonderful thing to do, mothering ourselves when we don't feel like we've been mothered in the right ways. We learn how to care for ourselves in ways that our mothers didn't know how to care for themselves. And hopefully that's a generational healing somewhat, but how did you end up doing that mothering? And what are
I
some of the
didn't
lessons?
until I went through my awakening. That's what I'm saying. So we just go out and we go about and we know we're not traditional and I didn't want to get married. Like everyone off high school in our culture, if you think about it, Congolese Mormons, like at 19, 20, you're already getting married. And me, I grew up very strict, very controlled. I didn't realize I was an artist at heart. And I did love writing and I loved modeling and fashion. And when I had the opportunity, my dad was like, no, that's for whores, like the impossible. Our family's strong on education. So I wasn't allowed to be who I was supposed to be. And so even when I left, I'm finding myself now. And the awakenings, that's why I say it's very grateful. It's kind of, it leads you back home. There's a lot of things I went through, a lot of low vibrational activities.
Can you give us a description or an example of what that means for you, low vibrational activities?
Like partying after hours,
And for that,
smoking, drinking, just things that were not of my highest good. And I don't condone all of it because of those moments. I've met a lot of people through that because a lot of people, that's what they do anyways, that I would have never met otherwise. But it wasn't for my highest good. And
how do you choose what it is that today, as we're talking, as you're going through this final year of transformation of like these 7 years, how would you say you are doing stuff for your highest good and your highest vibration? What are those things? How do you recognize them?
that's a great question. How do I recognize them? By how I feel. If I'm like, I'm so tired, and my friend looked at me too, and he's like, looking at you makes me tired. I'm canceling. So I didn't go. Would these people be mad at me? Maybe. And that's why I say a lot of people start getting mad at you because I'm listening to what's best for me, my body, and that time. No is a perfect sentence to me. I will do what's best for me and not what's best for you. It's selfish in some ways, right? So it's just doing what's best for you. If I have the energy, I would, but I don't. And I'm not going to sacrifice.
Knowing your boundaries and
Yes.
having discovered what it is that feeds you versus what it is that hinders you or
Yes.
takes energy from you, and recognizing those signs in your body.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
the fatigue, the tiredness, the digestion.
Right now, okay, I want to go to sleep. A lot of people will regiment themselves and be like, you need to work out like 3, 4 times a week. Or sometimes my body is just like, no. And I'm not going to overwrite that. I need something softer. I'll go do maybe a walk, right? As long as I'm in movement. But we've conditioned to be so hard on ourselves and to please everybody and to be it all for everyone else but ourselves. And I guess I'm a rebel.
I think it's being a rebel according to others.
Well,
It's
with the cause.
actually, yeah, it's actually something that we should have learned earlier that could have maybe helped us before we had to go through all these experiences to learn them, right? But hindsight is 2020. Now, if you were to go back in time, would you change anything?
I only regret the things I didn't buy. There's this purse still in Mexico that I should have bought. Yeah. There's this pair of boots in Italy that I'm like, man, I should have bought those. So those are my really only regrets. Would I have changed anything? I just wouldn't be I wouldn't be me, or just, it would be a whole different experience.
Can you tell us a little bit about how depression and exhaustion showed up for you and how you managed that?
So the exhaustions, it's just I was leaking energy without realizing, especially as a therapist, being on the road. I didn't know how to ground myself, or I just never really took it seriously. And we're sleeping on tour bus, we're in hotels, we're in a different city every night, where crowds of people, I'm backstage or I'm in the front of the house and there's tons of people like yelling and shouting, and I absorb all of this energy. And that's caused me, like, so I was taking everyone's energy and leaking my own energy. So I almost couldn't move out of my bed when I got home for almost a month. I was so tired. I was exhausted and I had no idea what was going on. And I was like here, there, everywhere. But I think that exhaustion, that's where all my shadows started dancing. And I seen shamans. I started doing a lot of clearing energies, and depression wasn't so much as more like the medications that they put me on, or it's altered who I was. And you start really thinking about all of these things that kind of affect you mentally. I always say depression is when you're not in tune or in alignment with yourself. And so I was medically induced into a certain aspect that caused a lot of imbalances in my body. And so learning to detach and be like, this is me, this is not me, this is not, I just really got physical. Like I started squash, I started doing Tai Chi, Qigong, things where I became in the present, movement, still energy work. My squash was my somatic for me. And I'm not like the best, but I just hitting that ball, shaking shit off of me. That's great.
And it's known that tennis is one of the best sports. Well, squash, not being
It's the
tennis,
same,
it's
yeah.
very similar. You're activating all of your body muscles.
Yes.
You're also activating the coordination. You're also activating the eye movements. So it's a really all in all great sport to reactivate the body.
Yes.
And the body is somehow, it's like a rechargeable battery, but you've got to know how to charge it.
Yes.
And if it's empty and you keep on taking the last little bit of,
yes.
like, oh, it has a spark, use that spark, and not recharging it on a regular basis, whether it's with, deep rest or grounding or focusing attention on something and being present in the moment, then, there's something that's missing. And once you're present in that moment and you're activating your body, there's been studies where they've been shown that muscles are the best medicine because they emit these chemicals in our bodies that actually help regenerate cells and regenerate our breath and help our hearts pump. And that translates to clearer head, more focused and aligned. And so I find that's really relevant because that's something that we don't really consider. We talk a lot about depression, but we don't necessarily talk about how to get out of it. I love the way you said depression is a moment in time that you are not in tune or in alignment with yourself. And that's exactly it. Because all of a sudden, you have no mission, no purpose. Your purpose is somebody else's. You're not doing something that makes your heart sing or that inspires you. You're not using your creativity and all these different aspects of the human being that really make us whole, right? So if we're doing a lot of one thing and not enough of everything else, well, maybe there is a depressive state there. It's not to put titles on ourselves, but it is important to understand that exhaustion and that depression is coming from, yes, a chemical reaction in the brain, but also, and in the body, but also that we have the tools and resources to help ourselves with medication and without medication. So a combination of the both. And having gone through depression 2 times, a couple of burnouts myself, lots of anxiety and panic in life, I understand now how important that is and how relevant that is. Even to this day, even though we know the stuff, it doesn't mean that we actually use it or put it into practice. So I love that you're doing squash, Tai Chi, Qigong, and this is considering that you have, your own situational health issues.
Trying not to let it define me.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think that is such an important part of realigning ourselves, right? Not allowing our challenges to define us.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It's very hard. I think that's a lifetime in the making, right? But I think that always coming back to that source within really shifts everything.
It's true, but it happens in so many different phases. If you think about a mother who just gave birth and is depleted and now has what is it?
Postpartum.
Postpartum. And we never study it. We're like, she's gone crazy after having a kid, but she's literally depleted of all the minerals and her body shuts down. Like she needs to se ressourcer d'une manière, right?
And all of a sudden, your body doesn't have this baby anymore.
Yeah.
The chemicals in your body are just like going crazy. Of course.
So it's the same thing, right? Different phases for everyone. You just have to recognize it and not sit in it too long. This is the minute, and you say, how do you know when to move? That's exactly when I know what's next. Like, I think as creatures, especially women, being into our feminine, we are meant to be creatives and creators. So you look in what way can you get your spark back and what's calling at you. And it doesn't make sense to anyone. Just do it. Sometimes, for example, I've never drew it. I don't care to draw anyways, but my sister's the artist. But it could be like picking up a pen and just start drawing, and you just get into this drawing and it's giving you life, right? The only thing that gives us life is being in our creative mode. I fully believe in that. So tapping back into what made you feel good when you were 8, 9, 10. So reading was another thing when I was on, or I still am. And even yesterday I wrote my girlfriend, I'm like, I need a book. I can't read these self-help books anymore. Like I can't be bothered with any of that stuff. I just need to laugh, have a great novel, and just be immersed in a fantasy. And sometimes that's what we need.
Absolutely.
Super simple. It's not expensive. And you just need to honor that, your nudge.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all get nudges. We tend to dismiss them quite a bit.
And oh my God.
Yeah.
Dismissal.
Yeah. We tend to dismiss a lot of things, especially as women. And so,
unfortunately, we've learned through generations to make ourselves small and dismiss ourselves because we've been dismissed. The same way that the women's health has been dismissed all these years, and just now we're having doctors like Vonda Wright or Mary Claire Higgins that are doing the research to show that a woman's body is not exactly like a man's body, and there's a lot of changes in how we should approach that. And the medical system is based on a white male research base.
But if you delve into older ancient wisdom, we've dismissed that. And it's like we're coming back around to even that, right? So things that we've dismissed, even times as old as tales, old wives' tales, they come back like, oh, we really do need sunlight. And we just, right? We're not supposed to be in cubicles. We need to be moving. We need to be active. And I think COVID brought out a lot of that with people where you can see they change. They're like, I don't need to work in this environment, or I don't need this. So the world shut down, but a little bit of a treasure. A lot of people broke up and a lot of people came together because you're faced with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. We dismissed ourselves for so long, right? So dismissal, little nudges, they're always there. Yeah. You're like, I shouldn't marry that guy. And you still did. It was always there.
Because on paper, everything seems right, but inside, nothing seems right, and you don't understand.
Or your family. What would my family think? What would this think? They're not living in your shoe. Like, I will not live. Like, I will not. That's the thing now. Like, I will not ever let what my mother, what my brother thinks. They're not living in my shoes. And if they're not even tightening my shoes or tying my shoes or buying my shoes or whatever, like, you have no say. No say. Yes.
Because you're the only one that's going to take that next step, right?
It affects you. Every single decision, everything you do affects you.
Some people are naysayers because they don't see themselves capable to do something like that, be out of the norm or be a little different or actually step up to...
Or you'll get hated.
You know, and
you will get hated. You will be, who do you think she is?
Exactly.
Because she's that girl who's doing exactly what she needs to be doing. And a lot of people would want to do it and don't do it.
Exactly.
Because they dismiss their own selves.
And to learn to reappropriate that affirmative belief that you are everything you need. You can learn from others, but that you can have those decisions. You can make those hard choices because that's what you've had all your life to learn.
It kind of goes back even to my book. It's making your own decisions. I sat in my office. So Heels, Wheels, and Bad Deals is about purchasing your vehicle smart. It was written for women originally because they were the ones that would sit in my office and had no clue what to do if it wasn't for their husband, their brother, their father, their neighbor. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, why are they having so much value over something you're going to be driving and paying for? And it's kind of, you're dismissing what's your own intuitive self at the end of it all. So it's kind of a guide leading back to yourself and how to make the best decisions as someone who's worked in sales and in the finance office. So it kind of has the sales aspect as well as the spiritual side to it, empowering women to stand their ground. And it's an ode for an industry that I've been on pause for. And
well, I read part of it. I haven't read it all, unfortunately. It's also a very short book, so it's really an easy read. But there's so much wisdom, not only to buy a car, but for life.
Yes.
There's so much wisdom for life in there.
The wheel of life.
Yes, yes. And to live life fully.
Yes.
Right? And that's what I loved about it. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for being a supporter.
Yeah. It was a wonderful launch. I was there, and Ariane was surrounded by all her family and all these beautiful people. It was a fantastic little evening. And please, by all means, go and get her book. We talked about a little something earlier where you said, oh, my sister is the artist. But I actually want to reframe that because artists come in many different forms, right? And you are a writer. And so I think, and not only a writer, but a creative. And I think that writing that has helped you, I guess, get through things, has helped you process things, synthesize information or situations or your wisdom or your insights. It has allowed you to ground into that wisdom.
Yes.
And to bring it in, embody that wisdom, right? Which is wonderful. But that writing is so important for that healing process of the mind. And it's very powerful to ourselves to actually have those conversations with ourselves, that stream of consciousness,
yes,
that creative sense, that woman intuitive sense. It kind of builds all that. And they've studied that writing is actually one of the best forms of release for nervous system regulation, which comes back to you being a fantastic therapist because you're actually living what you actually teach as well, right?
This awakening really put that in motion. Outlets. You're like, oh, well, I teach people this. I better start doing it. So embodying, actually, this awakening became an embodiment.
And how did you start writing? If somebody is out there and they're wondering, I wish I could do that, like, what would you say?
Growing up, especially with African parents, and I think most cultures outside of North American, you're basically told to, as a woman, to kind of sit there and be pretty, right? Don't speak too much, or some places it's like children are meant to be seen, not heard. And so I had a lot of emotions going through all these moves and changes, and I just started writing. And I remember in class we had to do something about writing, and I really, really enjoyed writing. And that's how I would say what I wasn't able to express is through writing. And if someone was to talk to me, I used to freeze a lot because I didn't know the language or I wasn't taught to respond. And so, believe it or not, I had a point where I was always afraid to speak. And now I'm like becoming a speaker and loving my podcast. But I write my podcast and then I speak it out loud. I still have moments where I'll freeze, not as much. I think if I get in my own flow, then I'm fine. I get self-conscious a bit. And I have to be like, oh, it's okay to speak your truth. Because I was taught that I had that blockage that I wasn't allowed to speak for so long. Speak when you're spoken to. And now I'll curse you out very easy.
and so
that's great.
Emotion is what made you come to writing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. It's actually funny. It's the first time I think I speak about this. Yeah. Just joking.
So this writing has become a thing, and this art has become even a podcast, and this podcast has become a door to being a speaker.
Yes.
So tell me a little more about that whole coming to where you are now.
Coming to where I'm at now. I'm just figuring it all out as I'm going. I'm just following my nudge, even if it doesn't make sense. I just knew it's kind of like the next step, but I feel like this step is one that is very unclear, and therefore I'm walking by faith. I think a lot of it has more to deal with divine downloads that I'm getting, and it's making sense as I'm doing it, and pushing me out of my comfort zone. But I can't tell you like where it's going. It's just something that I feel like I've been guided to do or to become or to be. Yes.
Thank you so much. There's so much more that I want to talk about, obviously. It was so rich, short and rich, and I so appreciate your time. Where can we find you, and where can we find your book and your podcast?
Where can you find me? You can find my podcast, Letters to Francesca, which is words of wisdom of my experiences that I would share with my inner child, my unborn daughter, I guess anyone in that age. Right now, Francesca's in college, so I'm kind of speaking to her at a 20 to 24-year-old level. My book is on Amazon, Heels, Wheels, and Bad Deals. What else do I have going on?
Instagram.
I have my Instagram, JustySoul81. I'm not really doing any coaching just yet. I'm kind of put that on hold, and I'm coaching myself. Sometimes you have to take a step back, and I'm becoming the student again for bigger and better purposes. And I think
That's
this is
great.
it, right?
Yeah.
Podcast, book. I will start doing my readings, like my energy readings, angel cards reading again. I decided I'm ready for that.
I love that.
So you can just reach me at JustySoul81.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love that we covered how play and pleasure are so important, how there are seasons in life and different people in life, how changing your environment and your space, your activity, your movement can change your body and your mind, how communication is essential, whether it's through writing, whether it's through trying to understand another group of people, and how to find resilience and strength through your challenges. And I find that powerful. So I hope that you've taken bits and pieces and nuggets and stolen moments out of this episode. Thank you so much for following us. Thank you so much for listening and giving us your time and attention. I hope to see you and hear from you in the comments below. This is Sarah Sessions wishing you a great morning, great evening, and great afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Bye.